And these are the Pathfinder Adventure Gear deck. Contains 110 cards. We looked at the Pathfinder condition cards. But this is cards for gear. So it says, gear up. Whether you're a player setting off on an epic adventure or a GM deciding what goods are sold at the local sundry shop, you need to know what you have handy. The Pathfinder Adventure Gear deck contains cards for every piece of adventuring gear in the Pathfinder core rulebook, plus key alchemical and magical items, complete with statistics and descriptions. The 110 card deck also includes the rules you need to manage your gear. With the Adventure Gear deck, you will always be prepared. See, I'm a big fan of also slot-based inventory systems, dealing with slots for inventory and encumbrance. So I think it would be great, since you're not trying to write down absolutely every little thing that your character has got, from an embroidered handkerchief you picked up someplace to some kind of buttons that ended up not being important. If it's important, maybe you should have a card for it. And then if the card tells you how many slots it takes up, then there. If it's important, it's a card in your hand, and all its important statistics are there. So let's check these out. Let's just start with this one. Does anybody have this deck? Hopefully it is as good. Sometimes I'm disappointed with cards, but hopefully this is as good as, because I'm a big fan of cards, so I go and buy them. But some of the ones that I bought have not been all that impressive to me. Okay, so what do we got here? So on this side, we've got the illustrations. And it's just an illustration. That probably means, so on this side, well, you've got stats. Okay, so the first thing I notice, that is a lot of empty space. So this, like the mug here, what are we supposed to do? And plus, now with the mug on the back, that means that you don't get to look at it while you've got the information about the mug up. You don't have the picture. See, I would be inclined to want to put the picture on the same side. Although mug, I'm not really sure if that's something that you need a stat card for anyway. Let's see what it gives you. Like Adventurer's Pack. What is this on this side? See, that might, okay, that's its bulk. Okay, I'm assuming that's its bulk rating. So for instance, it says Adventurer's Pack. This item is the starter kit for an adventurer containing the essential items for exploration and survival. The bulk value is for the entire pack together, but see the descriptions of individual items as necessary. The pack contains the following items: a backpack, a bedroll, 10 pieces of chalk, flint and steel, 50 feet of rope, 2 weeks of rations, soap, 5 torches, and a water skin. And that is bulk 1. Hands in a price 15 silver pieces. But that's a bulk 1 item. So Pathfinder uses bulk to manage that. So I guess that's like slots, right? I don't remember exactly how that worked, but I assume that's like slots. You've got a certain amount of bulk that you can handle. Let me look that up. Let's look at Pathfinder's bulk rules. Okay, so according to the archives of Nethys, bulk. Carrying especially heavy or unwieldy items can make it more difficult for you to move, as can overloading yourself with too much gear. The bulk value of an item reflects how difficult the item is to handle, representing its size, weight, and general awkwardness. If you have a high strength score, you usually don't have to worry about bulk unless you're carrying numerous substantial items. Okay, so bulk limit is you can carry an amount of bulk equal to 5 plus your strength modifier without penalty. Okay, so we can think about that as we're looking at these cards. You can carry an amount equal to amount of bulk equal to 5 plus your strength modifier without penalty. So the modifiers were pretty standard. So you could have 8 bulk. If you're a fighter, you might be able to carry 8. 9 would be max or something like that. If you carry more, you gain the encumbered condition. We did have cards for the encumbered condition. You can't hold or carry more bulk than 10 plus your strength modifier. So your max is 10 plus strength modifier. If you're over 5 plus strength modifier, you gain the encumbered condition. Items can have a number to indicate their bulk value, or they can be light, indicated by L, or negligible, indicated by a dash, for the purposes of determining bulk. For instance, full plate armor is full. Okay, so this is also some benchmarks. For example, full plate armor is 4 bulk. A longsword is 1 bulk. A scroll or dagger is light, and a piece of chalk is negligible. 10 light items count as 1 bulk, and you round fractions down. So 9 light items count as 0 bulk, and 11 light items count as 1 bulk. Items of negligible bulk don't count toward bulk unless you try to carry vast numbers of them as determined by the GM. As a general rule, an item that weighs 5 to 10 pounds is 1 bulk. An item weighing less than a few ounces is negligible, and anything in between is light. But particularly awkward or unwieldy items might have higher bulk values. For example, a 10-foot pole, the classic 10-foot pole, isn't heavy, but its length makes it difficult for you to move while you have one on your person, so bulk is 1. Items made for larger or smaller creatures can have greater or less bulk as described in items and sizes. Okay, so that's how we're using bulk here. Zero Theory says, we use the Critical Fumble deck in Pathfinder 1E, and that's about the only cards I found useful unless it's game necessary. So, yeah, as Sable Phoenix says, bulk is an abstract combination of weight and volume. So if you only got 5 plus strength modifier, a 1 bulk, I'd want that to be written larger, though. That's a rather tiny 1 on this side. Like, that to me, that's an important, and even on the back here, to me, that's an important part of what this is. But nonetheless, okay, so if you only get between 5 and 9 bulk, 1 bulk is your adventurer's pack. But that does contain flint and steel, 50 feet of rope, 2 weeks worth of rations. So that's pretty good. And also 5 torches. That was in Knave, right? We were talking about how many slots torches took up. It was a lot. And also weeks worth of rations. So to get all that for 1 bulk, that sounds pretty good. What is that thing? A snare kit? No, wait, look, that says 55 right there. So that's not bulk. I've got 55 written there. Is that cost? No, it's not cost. Because this says the snare kit is bulk 2. I was like, oh my God, what is bulk 55? Let me bring my camera down a little bit. I was like, what could possibly be bulk 55? Oh, a trap. Yeah, like a snare kit. Yeah, trap for a game. Right, yeah. This kit contains tools necessary for creating snares. The snare kit allows you to craft snares using the crafting kit skill. A specialist snare kit gives you +1 item bonus to the check. You can draw and replace a worn snare kit as part of the actions to use. So the snare kit says 5 GP. A specialist snare kit, level 3, is 55 GP. So 55 is on here, but that doesn't make sense over here. Adventurer's Pack is 15 SP, and it's got a 1 on it. Wait, so where is our rules? It said it came with rules. I don't know what I'm looking at. Bulk 2, hands 2. Small game hunting trap. Yeah, Zero Theory says. So, okay, hold on. Let me open this one. See what it says. Let me open this one. Now, is the 55? It could just be a card number. Because here's 54, 53, 52. Yeah, I guess that is what it is. I guess it's just a card number. Oh, that's what Daniel was saying. Daniel was saying, is the 55 just a card number? I guess that is what it is. But see, here's my other problem. Okay, so I guess I'm not as happy with this deck already as I would like to be. Yeah, Zero the Blade came to the same kind of conclusion. Maybe it is. And it was just happenstance that the first one was bulk 1. But, okay, I bought this deck of 110 cards. And the way that I would want to use them, like I said, is handing them out. So how many Adventurer's Pack cards do I need? I need 1 for every character, right? All right, so I only have 1, because that's another thing that I was going to say, like longsword, short sword, different types of armor. You need multiple. I can't get this deck open. You need multiple cards because you got multiple PCs. So having multiples of certain cards doesn't bother me. In fact, I'd want it. Okay, so let's see. This right here. God. So this is the card-based open game license. So that's not our rules. Here we got some cards with P's. Okay, all right, let's see what this is. So spell casting services, beverages and meals, lodging, move up here, transportation, coins. Okay, so here it does tell us what bulk is. The bulk value of an item represents how difficult it is to handle, representing its size, weight, and general awkwardness. You can carry amount of bulk equal to 5 plus your strength modifier without penalty. If you carry more, you gain the encumbered condition. You can't hold or carry more bulk than 10 plus your strength modifier. Encumbered. I was like, okay, so what is the encumbered stuff? I was like, where's my conditions deck? But okay, it does tell you right here. If you are carrying more weight that you can encumbered, you are carrying more weight than you can manage. While you're encumbered, you're clumsy 1 and take negative 10-foot penalty to all your speeds. As with all penalties to your speed, this can't reduce your speed below 5 feet. Changing equipment. The following table lists the actions required to perform common changes to how you hold and handle your equipment. Change. Draw out or put away a worn item or pick up an item. 1 or 2 hands. Action. Interact. Pass an item or take an item from a willing creature. Hands 1 or 2. Interact. Action is interact. Drop an item to the ground. 1 or 2. Action. Release. 1 or 2 hands. Action. Release. Detach a shield or item strapped to you. Requires 1 hand and an interact action. Change your grip by removing a hand from an item. Change your grip by removing a hand from an item. Requires 2 hands and release. Change your grip by adding a hand to an item. Requires 2 hands and an interact. Retrieve an item from a backpack. Requires 2 hands and an interact. So we also have some footnotes here. So 1, draw or put away a worn item or pick up an item. If you retrieve a 2-handed item with only 1 hand, you still need to change your grip before you can wield it. 2, a creature. So 2 involves passing an item. A creature must have a hand free or someone to pass an item to them, and they might then need to change their grip to receive an item requiring 2 hands to wield or use. 3 is about retrieving an item from a backpack. Retrieve an item stowed in your own backpack requires first taking off the backpack using a separate interact action. 03 says, just spitballing the idea. Maybe you could just hand a blank index card to a player for an item, and then you could draw it themselves to give it unique flair. You could do that. I've seen some encumbrance systems like that where you have your grid and then you draw your item on the grid. That makes it difficult to rearrange and you have to erase. So I think that's why I like the systems that come with some type of token better. That way you can just put it on there. Changing equipment. Okay, we just looked at item damage. An item can be broken or destroyed if it takes enough damage. Each time an item takes damage, reduce any damage the item takes by its hardness. The rest of the damage reduces the item's hit points. A creature that attacks you doesn't normally damage your armor or other gear, even if it hits you, but some monsters have exceptional abilities that can damage your items. An item becomes broken when its hit points are equal to or lower than its broken threshold, BT. Once its hit points are reduced to 0, it is destroyed. A broken item has the broken condition until repaired above its broken threshold. Anything that automatically makes an item broken immediately reduces its hit points to broken threshold if the item had more hit points than that when the effect occurred. If an item has no broken threshold, then it has no relevant changes to its function due to being broken, but it's still destroyed at 0 hit points. An item can't be repaired. A destroyed item can't be repaired. An item's hardness, hit points, and broken threshold is usually dependent on the material the item is made of. The information appears on page 577 of the core rulebook. Pathfinder card. Here is the broken condition. A broken condition is a condition that affects objects. An object is broken. Well, basically, it's just said that. A broken item can't be used for its normal function, nor does it grant bonuses with the exception of armor. Broken armor still grants its item bonus to AC, but it also imparts a status penalty to AC depending on its category. -1 for broken light armor, -2 for broken medium armor, or -3 for broken heavy armor. A broken item still imposes penalties and limitations normally incurred for carrying, holding, or wearing it. For example, broken armor would still impose its dexterity modifier cap, check penalty, and so forth. If an effect makes an item broken automatically and the item has more HP than its broken threshold, reduce the HP. We got a card on repair action. If an item becomes broken, you can repair it. Repair, exploration, and manipulate tags. Requirements: you have a repair kit. You spend 10 minutes attempting to fix a damaged item, placing an item on a stable surface and using the repair kit with both hands. The GM sets the DC, but it's usually about the same DC to repair a given item as it is to craft it in the first place. You can't repair a destroyed item. A critical success, you restore 10 hit points to the item, plus an additional 10 hit points per proficiency rank you have in crafting. A total of 20 HP if you're trained, 30 HP if you're an expert, 40 HP if you're a master, or 50 HP if you're legendary. Success, you restore 5 HP to the item, plus an additional 5 per proficiency rank you have in crafting. Okay, critical failure, you deal 2d6 damage to the item. Apply the item's hardness to this damage. Okay. A character carries items in 3 ways: held, worn, and stowed. Held items are carried on your hands. A character typically has 2 hands, allowing them to hold an item in each hand, and a single two-handed item using both hands. Or a single two-handed item using both hands. Worn items are tucked into pockets, belt pouches, bandoliers, weapon sheaths, and so forth. They can be retrieved and returned relatively quickly. Stowed items are carried in a backpack or the like and are more difficult to access. Drawing a worn item or changing how you're carrying an item usually requires you to use an interact action. Though to drop an item, you may use the release free action instead. Many ways of using items require you to spend multiple actions. For example, drinking a potion worn at your belt requires using an interact action to draw it and then using a second action to drink it. You can make a set of tools, such as alchemist tools or healer's tools, easier to use by wearing it. This allows you to draw and replace the tools as part of an action that uses them. You can wear up to 2 bulk of tools in this manner. Tools beyond this limit must be stowed or drawn with an interact action to use. I like that. And we saw something like that in Mouse Guard as well. So I think that if you're using a basic slot-based inventory system like this, having, what is in your hands, what is worn, and then what is otherwise stowed and unable to get to are important distinctions. And that seems to make sense. Oh, David says, I like the cards for the rules. For the actual items, not so much. Especially since new items are coming out all the time, which do not have cards. Zero Theory says, but then what point would have you gotten the deck in the first place? You could do that now and save the money I would have spent on the deck. See, I actually think that, I don't know, I hadn't really thought about I want the rules for something on the card. So I guess that's interesting to have these rules reference cards. I'm not sure how I would use these during the game. Is it going to be easier to find the card on, say, that's services, spellcasting services? Why is this? I feel like this could focus better. There we go. Beverages and meals. But, okay, beverage and meal spellcasting services. Okay, that's okay, fine. That's services. And this is the item deck, so I guess. But is it going to be easier for me to find the rules on item damage in the book? Or is it going to be easier for me to find the item damage card? I'm not sure. Stargate Mind says, in Mind's a Fan, I let the players pick a random card to identify the magic item they found. Players loved it. Oh. See, that's also... So I guess I'm not terribly happy with this deck, because if I've got them sitting right here on my play surface, then I want to see the art. Like, that seems rather bland to have that. And then on the back is the image. So yeah, you can't use it for a random draw or something. So David says that for him, I find it quicker to shuffle through cards than scan through the book. I guess my point was the book has an index. My cards could be in any order if I'm looking for the right rule. Stargate Mind says they defeated the BBEG with a necklace of fireballs they drew, not that I assigned. Okay, so what does it come with then? We don't need to look at every one of these. Saddlebag, signal whistle, Alchemist's Lab. So that's a bulk 6. And that is rather tiny. Like I would have had on these cards the picture up at the top, more like a Magic kind of card layout, a picture of what this is, and then symbols for like how many hands it is, what bulk it is. If you want to put price on it, put the price on it. Cards like Zombicide item cards that have all the different stats with symbols and stuff like that. So I think that's how I would have used this, and bulk would be a really important part of it, or how many slots it takes up. There's Alchemist Tools. So that's a bulk 1. Artisan's Tools. And then I also would have had multiple copies so that common items, so that all the adventurers can have one. Hey, Vision. Good to see you. Good morning, Vision. James says, if I'm letting my players draw randomly from Magic items, I'm assembling a 50-card deck that's just a bag full of weasels. It's just bags of weasels. I wonder if that's in here. Backpack. See, 1 backpack. Basic Crafter's Book, Bedroll, Elite Disguise Kit, Caltrops. Okay, so they did give you 2 Caltrops. Are they different? Because I got different card numbers on it. I got cards 10 and 11. But otherwise, they look the same. Candle, chain, chalk, chest, climbing kit, ordinary clothing. See, again, just 1. So it's supposed to be like a reference or something. But I want to be able to give these to the players. Like the conditions cards came with different ones, like multiples of the cards, which that makes sense. Like, to me, it would have been lame if you get 1 condition card. Oh, it's just for reference. No, if a player's got the condition, I want to hand them the card so they know this is important. And here are the rules: cookware, crowbar, fishing tackle, flint and steel, formula book, grappling hook, hammer, healer's tools, holly and mistletoe. Plants of supernatural significance provide a primal focus for primal spellcasters, such as druids, when using certain abilities and casting some spells. A bunch of holly and mistletoe must be held in one hand to use it. Other primal foci exist for druids focused on other aspects of nature. Hourglass, ladder, bullseye lantern, lock, magnifying glass, manacles, material component pouch, merchant scale, mirror, mug, musical instrument handheld, musical instrument heavy, oil, python, rations, usually a mix of dried fruits, veggies, and meats. These portable and easily kept foodstuffs are a convenient meal solution for travelers when access to fresh cooked meals is out of the question. There's a repair kit for items. Rope, sack. See, and I also I thought a good idea would be envelopes that look like different containers. You could make envelopes that are the size of the cards, but then make the envelope look like a backpack or look like a treasure chest or something like that. And that way, if it's a treasure chest or something, the GM could load the thing up beforehand, the envelope up beforehand, and then when you open the treasure chest, hand that envelope full of cards. And likewise, if you've got a backpack envelope, then you could just put your cards that are in your backpack in that envelope. What is that? Barding heavy. Soap, spellbook, spyglass, tack, 10-foot pole, pup tent, 4-person tent pavilion, thieves' tools, infiltrator tools, long tool, short tool. Okay, what are the, all right, here are the long tools. Here's the short tools. Torch, see, just 1 torch. A torch sheds a bright light in a 20-foot radius, but just 1 card, water skin, writing set, scholarly journal, surveyor's map, antidote, lesser, item 1. Antidote. Okay, now so that we get 2 of those, right? Okay, they're different. No, they're different item. They're different card numbers, though. Antidote, lesser. Anti-plague, lesser. Elixir of life, minor. Elixir of life. So it gives you 3 of those. Smokestick, lesser. Sunrod, tender twig. Match. Holy water, unholy water. Healing potion, minor. So it does give you 3 healing potions. What do those look like? Called classic red healing potions. I still want that on the front, though. Scroll, first level. Potency crystal, guard dog, riding horse, war horse, riding pony, war pony, barding light, barding heavy. So I don't know. Yeah, David says, have to say I usually defend Paizo products, but these just aren't very good. I feel like a lot of times the cards, because I really, as I say all the time, I like cards. I want to be able to use more cards. And then I see somebody's produced cards for game. Oh, okay, cool. I've got to check these out. Maybe they're going to be able to do what I want to do. And I'm frequently underwhelmed by the cards in a major way. This just seems to be a consistent thing across a bunch of different publishers with a bunch of different games that are being produced by cards. They're producing cards. I feel like they're an afterthought. I feel like they could be a really good and important game accessory. Now I realize, like we're having a discussion here, not everybody would want to use them, but I feel like they could be a really important accessory, but for at least the people who want to use them the way that I would want to use them, but that they're always assembled like an afterthought and not taken very seriously. Yeah, I'm underwhelmed by that. James says, I don't know. I like the cards. I've been known to like bad stuff, though. I can own that. Altoids 10s would work well as chests and backpack. Yeah, you could definitely. Now, and you can get larger size Altoids 10s. That's an interesting thing to do, because then you could put a character in an Altoids 10 and then put it in your backpack, in your pocket, or put it in a backpack or something like that, and you wouldn't worry about all the cards getting torn up or bent or something like that. That'd be something that would protect them. And then also an Altoids 10 could carry like other little tokens, because I like the physicality. And like I said, that I have a theory that like there's got to be some number of optimal things that you're supposed to track during a game. And those things can change from session to session, or even part of a session to part of a session, depending on what exactly it is that you're doing. But if you're supposed to be tracking some type of resource, then doing it with cards or doing it with meeple-like tokens seems like a thing to do. And you could put meeple-like tokens inside a Altoids 10 as well. Daniel says, I don't think this is a GM item, but more of a player thing to help organize. Yeah, maybe it is supposed to be something that's bought by a single player, since you basically have, if a single player wants to keep their equipment organized by cards, maybe that's it. Because I was definitely thinking of it as like a GM kind of thing for, the whole table. James says Dragonlance 5th edition has cards. It replaces all dice rolling with card shuffling and selection. Hey, Nightmare. Good morning, Nightmare. Good to see you here on the Morning Grind. Nightmare says, hello, all. I have to completely agree. I like cards or handouts, but they seem like an afterthought in most systems. So if I do cards, I wanted them to be done really well. Let's see. I've got some other cards. So I tell you what, let's not do the Guns Blazing today. Let's do Guns Blazing, I guess, tomorrow. I would take a look at the starter set. So we got the quick start rules. If you didn't watch last night's table talk, it was really good with Bashir. But let me look at some other cards over here. I've got decks of cards over here. We'll look at them for a few more minutes. These are, okay, that's... I had like critical hit decks. Oh, okay. No, okay. So we did the Pathfinder critical hit deck and the Pathfinder condition cards. Let's see. But I had some other critical hit and treasure cards that I got at Gen Con. I don't really know where they are. I probably put them away someplace because I didn't think they were all that great. But so I think we were okay with the critical hit deck. We looked at that before. I think we thought those were pretty reasonable. It seemed to do what they were. It seemed to do what we were supposed to do, at least reasonably. So I think we thought those were okay. The Pathfinder critical hit deck. The condition cards, I still think, okay, what to me, what this still doesn't do, because I like conditions a lot, and because I like cards, I want to be able to hand the player the card that says broken ribs. So what this is supposed to do, okay, so whenever you roll or potentially get the critical hit, what you turn over a card, and then we do have different types of damage here, which I like. Okay. There might be another setting on this camera that I need to be using because I'm moving around things in and out of focus. It's supposed to be able to adjust to moving focus. I think I just had it on the wrong setting. Maybe we'll see. So you turn this over and then you get broken ribs, spinal tap, and the spinal tap, nerve slice, forceful blast, depending on whether it was a bludgeoning, piercing, slashing, bomb, or spell that happened. So that reduces the number of cards because otherwise you would have to have items, have different decks for different types of damage, which I would want to have. But if you get broken ribs, I want to be able to hand the character the card that has the condition on it that says, okay, you have broken ribs and what that's going to mean for the game here. And so you can't hand this to the player. So that's my problem with this. I suppose this does let you generate random critical hits, but it still doesn't let me hand you you now have the broken ribs, that effect, like in Fate, a consequence. Because I think about Fate a lot, and I want to be able to have a card that's I would sort that by damage, right? By damage type or something like that. I want to be able to go because we've talked about very often about how it can be difficult to come up with great narrative conditions and stuff on the fly. So I would want to spend the time. Okay, I tell you what, out of game, I'm going to come up with some great conditions for injuries, but it could be other things. For consequences in a Fate-like game, although there's a lot of games in that genre we've been looking at, because I want that injury to have some type of consequence, and I want to be able to hand them that card so they know exactly what it does and that they've got it. So you can't do that here. So I think if all you're trying to do is generate a critical hit, then great, but you can't hand them the card because it's got all these different things on it. They'd have to remember what it was. And most of these things, well, this one does say broken ribs, normal damage, crit effect, the target is slowed until healed. Overwhelming mash is triple damage. Concussion, normal damage, the target is confused. And see, okay, so confused and stupefied. I'm assuming those are also conditions, and I'd want that to indicate that that's confused is actually a thing. It's got rules. Stupefied is actually a thing. It's got rules. Okay, but still not exactly what I'm trying to do. I think the condition deck was closer because you're supposed to be able to hand these things out. So this one is better because like there are 2 undetected. Okay, there are 4 hidden. So if you're hidden, then you can hand the player hidden, and then that way they know exactly what it is. It's okay. So these are front and back. There's the same thing on the back. And I suppose what you're trying to identify the cards by color here. So that at least works there. I'm still underwhelmed by these cards' artistic stuff. Like, I feel like in this case, actually in all these cases, they're almost too utilitarian. Now, of course, I'm big on the feel of games. And that was one of the minor complaints that I have with generic systems is when you've got generic systems, you don't have stuff on the table that facilitates the look and feel of the game you're trying to generate. Like if you're trying to play Lord of the Rings, I like having the Lord of the Rings books on the table and Lord of the Rings themed stuff out there rather than having to look through GURPS. It's a minor complaint rather than having the generic systems on there. It's a minor complaint, but it is one. And if I'm going to all the trouble to make these cards, especially since these are Pathfinder fantasy cards, I think I definitely would have made these cards that the players are supposed to have up in front of them. I think I would have had them be more artistic and try to facilitate the feel of the table. And they're very utilitarian, which again gives them the kind of afterthought feel. Let's see. Zero Theory says, spell cards can be nice, but mostly they are the most common spells. If a character gets a unique or rarely used spell, it's the one they want to have a card for. Yeah, that's true. I did see, going back to even AD&D, there was the big box of spell cards. And I had that at some point. I had that because I was like, oh, all right, the spell cards. I thought they were going to be cards like this, but they ended up being like index card size. And again, it was still underwhelming, but at least it did come with a whole bunch of them. Vision says more profit selling them to individual players rather than to the table. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Zero Theory says, I like the critical hit deck. Vision says, I would have preferred them making these cards for the table. At the same time, I understand why they're selling them as individual player packs. Let's see. This one goes in here. Mixed feelings all around. Yeah, I agree. Zero Theory says it can give you a narrative path in combat that can sometimes be too mechanical, if that makes sense. Retro Nerd Girl says that's a great way to do it by handing out conditions. That's the way that I want to do it. David Sims, problem with giving them a particular feel for a game like Pathfinder is that there's a large enough game that different tables play with completely different feels. So you want to market to the majority. But Pathfinder already has a feel, right? People had already talked about, see, what I'm saying is that a lot of people are like very big on the the Pathfinder art style and stuff like that. So if you're playing Pathfinder, you've already got your Pathfinder books on the table, and Pathfinder has gone to a lot of Paizo has gone to a lot of trouble to come up with an artistic style that is consistent across all of their books. And now some people don't like the artistic style, and that's fine. But other people there's been mixed feelings on this show and this channel, and that's fine. But a lot of people have really liked the particular Pathfinder style of art. And whether or not you like it or you don't like it, that's definitely a feel that you got at the table when you were playing Pathfinder, its particular style of art. And then when you open up your condition card or your, the item cards, when I've got the item cards and it's that, I think they could have done a lot more to make this seem like the Pathfinder feel. Like that still even doesn't. I mean, to me, that it's the same background with something just stuck on it. To me, that feels low effort. I know cards are difficult because there's so many of them. You've got to have so many of them, but that seems low effort. And that artistic side isn't even going to be on. I don't even know if that fits the Pathfinder style all that well. Anyway, that one does more, but that's not what's going to be sitting there on the table anyway. What's going to be sitting on the table is that. And that's lame. I think. I had some cards from another company because I tried again at Gen Con. Somebody had critical hit cards and treasure cards. Let me look on. I've had to start moving some of my things to an auxiliary shelf in my bedroom, or actually in my bedroom closet. I'm going to look in there and just see, because I thought about doing those on a morning grind, but then I was like, I don't know if they're worth it. But let me just look in there and see if they're sitting in there, just since we're on a card, since we're talking about cards right here. Neutromancer says, I like the idea of Pathfinder 2. I'm sure after I play it, I'll find it has too many rules. A lame horse. Yes, it's a lame horse.